Hi everybody, thank you so much for joining us on this Thursday afternoon. My name is Caroline Allams. I am co-founder and educator at NatterHub. I am really so happy that so many of you have shown an interest in this important aspect of our world right now. And teaching online safety in primary schools always comes with lots of questions and opportunities to reflect on what's best for our youngest children. So my background is education. I'm a former primary school teacher and deputy head. So I've been in your shoes, and I hopefully what today can bring you is my wealth of experience in terms of what's happening in the online safety world. I'm going to give you a very brief introduction to my role at NatterHub, but this is not a sales pitch. It's going to be very much focused on supporting your teaching of online safety in primary schools and what might support you with your practice moving forward. So first of all, what is NatterHub? NatterHub is a safe-gated platform that's been designed specifically for primary schools to teach children the soft skills that underpin positive digital citizenship. It's an interactive platform. It's got lots of lessons inside, and we're really proud to work with some of the finest organisations and charities who are also trying to create impact in this space. We have NatterHub for School and NatterHub for Home, which supports parents and online safety. And we are now part of the Twinkl family. So NatterHub is actually freely available if any of you are Twinkl Ultimate subscribers. So I really absolutely urge you to make best use of that. It's really good fun. It teaches really important aspects of online safety. So we build digital resilience. We open up the awareness for online empathy. The critical thinking skills are absolutely crucial for online safety, and generally what it means to be a digital citizen. So that's not just about self-protecting, but also what do we expect from our children in their role as a digital citizen out on when they are using online resources, platforms and games, etc. So if you are a Twinkl Ultimate user, absolutely get stuck into NatterHub. We are here to support you in every aspect of online safety. We also have termly online safety webinars for parents, which will be open to your community as well. So get stuck in. If you go to the website natterhub.com, you'll see everything that's available to you. But even if you're not an Ultimate user, get in touch anyway, and we'll do our best to help you. Okay, so on to this session today. When children arrive at school, they bring all of their home experiences with them. And so everything that's happened at home prior to coming to school, whether it's that day or that year or from birth, they're bringing all of those experiences with them. And of course, this means their online experiences too. And we are very aware that you at school are trying your best to manage both school and digital playgrounds. So we know that when children are face-to-face, the issues that arise out of children being able to manage their social and emotional development face-to-face is really, really challenging when we think about them trying to manage their social and emotional development in digital playgrounds without the ability to see facial expressions and visual cues. And we know that you are dealing with a lot of pastoral issues as a result of things going wrong in the digital world that then is brought to school for you to resolve. And this is really no easy task. We know that you're also managing Facebook groups that maybe parents are on, and that's also pretty challenging. So I'm coming to you with an awareness of where you are. I'm going to talk about the potential risks and the problems of our children being online, and I'm going to talk to you about the requirements of schools in teaching online safety. And then hopefully what you're going to take away from this are some really practical, easy to apply tools that you can carry with you into your daily practice. We also know that more than anything else, the primary phase is a critical stage for this social and emotional development. And when I first had the idea for NatterHub and really wanted to create impact, it was far more around the social and emotional development than it was about encouraging children to use technology. So whilst I'm pro technology, we'll be talking a bit about that as well in this session. My main focus is what are we doing to best preserve and nurture social and emotional development in our youngest children. So we've got a global problem. We've got a global problem that's getting worse, and we are doing everything we can to support our children in this digital era. None of these statistics will be surprising to you, but they are still alarming. We've got our children being impacted by technology from birth, and we are seeing vulnerability around children's online vulnerability. What initially, when we first started in this space, was certainly around secondary age children sending nudes. We've now got vulnerability creeping further and further down into the primary age range. We work very closely with the Internet Watch Foundation. If you're not familiar with them, they deal with the very darkest aspects of children being online. They remove images and videos of children who have been coerced or groomed into creating sexualized imagery and video content. And they've seen a dramatic rise in this kind of content since the pandemic, which has seen the biggest increase in girls aged 7 to 11. So we've got a gender bias as well, but we've got a very vulnerable group of children coming out of very much the primary age range. So it's really critical that we are targeting online safety as an early intervention before children get to becoming digitally autonomous. And we know that every day in the media there are more and more alarming pieces of information around children being online, away from an adult's gaze, or certainly not a trusted adult's gaze. And we've got this really worrying increase in potential harm. Thinking about the EYFS age range, we're seeing a change in behaviour when children are starting school. 28% of children are coming to school tapping or swiping or trying to enlarge images on books because they're so used to digital content. We know that we've got children whose language skills are not, developed as we've seen in previous years. And research is going on at the moment. We don't know the results of that yet, to understand more around the impact of their tech use and their digital exposure in this reduction of language development. And we also need to remember as well that it's not just our children that are distracted by technology. Our children are now born into a world where we as adults are all distracted, and parents are distracted and focusing very much on technology, but actually so we as teachers as well. And certainly in the early years, where teachers are required to record a lot of examples of children's work digitally. I visit schools often, and it's not unusual to see that children trying to get the attention of a teacher whilst they are using an iPad to capture other children at work. So it's really important that we understand that children are looking for the attention of distracted adults as well as being distracted by technology themselves. I mean, that is just a very small fraction of many of the things that teachers told us around the issues that they are seeing in school, and I'm sure that you yourselves could add 100 more things to that. But as we move forward and the fast pace of technology, we need to be really clear. Is it the tech, or is it the behaviour around the tech, or is it both? And there's a lot of noise as well at the moment around smartphone bans in school or otherwise. I'm hoping as primary school educators that smartphones are not freely available in your schools, and that you have a good restrictive policy around the use of mobile phones and devices that come from home. And that's important to separate from the other force that's in the media at the moment, which is this smartphone free childhood movement. Now, they are basing a lot of their language on the book that was brought out by Jonathan Haidt, so The Anxious Childhood, and in that book, Jonathan Haidt, he really focuses on the statistics that he's found around global decline in education, adolescent mental health crisis on the decline, a real epidemic of psychological problems since 2014, and increase of depression. Now, other researchers will say that it's been manipulated data because he's associated it a lot with the use of mobile phones, and other researchers are saying that there are so many other factors that have contributed, and also awareness that's contributed to a lot of these statistics. So you are there to make your own decision, and without doubt there are risks associated with children being online, that's why we're all here today. But whether we understand it to be purely about the technology, there's less content mention around the content in the Jonathan Haidt book, and the smartphone free childhood tend to be gathering pace around a certain socioeconomic background of children, perhaps from families who can provide easily alternative opportunities for their children. We know that some families, because of the economic crisis as well, are not able to offer their children that. So where we stand as a brand is that as educators we have a right to and a need to educate children from where they are right now. And for most children, they are accessing the internet, they are embroiled with technology, and we need to understand what is it they need in order to be safe in that space. We know that a balance is absolutely what's needed for our children, and as much as we would like to think that our children are leaving your lovely schools and running out into the garden with their wellies on and spending time in nature and outside, that's not really the reality of what's happening. So it is important that we get the guardrails right, and it's important that we get the balance right. And there are risks that are impossible to ignore. So how is it possible to create impact in online safety in schools with all of this going on, with the horrors that we know that children could be exposed to if their content isn't filtered, with the cries for bans and then the requirements in the curriculum? How is it possible to create impact in online safety? Well, that's what we're going to really focus on here. But first of all, legislation. So I'm sure that lots of you have been discussing this as part of your back to school program. But what's new in keeping children safe in education? So good news, online safety is still a statutory safeguarding priority, and the new content risks have been added on misinformation, disinformation, including fake news, conspiracy theories, and even events in the last 48 hours are examples of why this is really crucial that we are nurturing these skills in our children. What's the takeaway? That primary school pupils need strong foundations in critical thinking, in media literacy and kindness online. But what does this mean for you in the classroom? It means talking to children about what they see online, helping them to question and verify, embedding digital well-being in PSHE, RSHE, and most importantly, in everyday discussion. Of course, reinforcing that not everything they see is online. Not everything they see online is true, and that we need to model and praise respectful digital content. These are really simple statements to mention in a document, but actually delivering them and the responsibility on you as a teacher might be quite different. So what's the takeaway? That you need to make sure that your classroom is reflecting your whole school safeguarding, and that ideally you're using school-wide tools to develop these skills so that everything is being reinforced in a spiral curriculum as children move through the primary years. Similarly, in RSHE, in 2025, now there's a stronger focus and guidance on the digital world, and the key changes are that pupils understand that online safety is more around interacting online and how it makes them feel, learning about online scams and in-app purchases, age restrictions, etc. But what I'm really happy to see is this emphasis on emotional response, because it's the emotional response, that pressure to be perfect, that being on the receiving end of a message that makes you feel a certain way. We have to make sure that we are creating impact in that space, the emotional response, because so much of our online safety is tied in with our social and emotional development and how we teach that in school. And online safety is so much about building digital resilience, which of course is far more a PSHE subject than it is a computing subject. So what do we need to focus on in the classroom? Yes, spotting the difference between safe and unsafe online content, talking about feelings, about being online. So this might be embarrassment, awkwardness, pressure, wishing that we were more like somebody else online, or exploring things that make us feel shocked or alarmed. Discussing kindness and empathy, that role of digital citizenship and how we conduct our friendships through gaming, through group chats, and teaching children to stop before they pause, before they pause and click. So I think it's really important to recognize that in the RSHE curriculum, we are getting to the nitty-gritty of the emotional side, the human element of being online, and this is really key. What does that mean for you to be in the classroom. Now, with NatHub's aims, what we are doing is really preparing children for an online space, and through that we are focusing on online vulnerability, protecting child well-being, supporting social and emotional development to develop smart, savvy digital citizens, preserving childhood, of course, meeting the curriculum and keeping children safe in education requirements. But we are talking about DSL focus over computing. And this is why online safety and getting it right is really key. Let's just for a second look at the smartphone-free childhood and the pros and cons, because as a school, you may be asked by parents about the smartphone-free childhood. So I'm just going to give you a few slides of things to consider and perhaps discuss in your staff room about what the pros and cons are with a smartphone-free childhood. Yes, we know that less time online may help improve focus, attention span, and academic performance, but it's also going to, in its extreme version, limit access to all the good stuff, to all the good things around educational apps and resources. And for your school, much of your work may be being delivered through technology. So yes, reducing exposure to inappropriate content gets the big tick from us. And of course, cyberbullying, if children are not online, they're less likely to be targeted. But what's important is that these things don't start or stop at certain ages, and we need to enable our children to have the opportunity to learn important digital skills and digital literacy skills in order to build that digital resilience, to understand scenarios that are happening online, to understand what a red flag looks like in an online space. So we need to make sure that hand in hand we are making sure that children are properly developing those skills. Yes, we want to promote face-to-face social interaction. One of the arguments around smartphone free is that children have been overly protected inside the house, and therefore are not spending time outside, and underprotected online. And we've reduced the opportunity for social interaction. So anything that promotes face-to-face social interaction obviously gets the big thumbs up. But we also need to understand that children, if all of their peers are interacting online, they may feel excluded if they are not part of it. These are things to consider. We know that there's lots to discuss within these statements. Spending too much time online reduces physical activity and movement, which of course is key. The younger our children are, the more opportunities they need to be playing and learning outside. You could say that applies to the whole of our primary, possibly even secondary. But we need to make sure that whilst we are encouraging digital skills, that children are having enough chance to be outside. But children also need to be able to communicate. Sleep, we know that the blue light theory has been largely debunked. However, dopamine inducing, exciting, flashing lights is not going to be conducive for screen time. Bedtime and screen time merging could impact sleep behaviors. So it's really important that we are nurturing healthy habits at home. The E launched some really sensible guidance recently around giving children under 11 a smartphone, and I hope that as primary educators we're all on the same page that for the majority of children, unless there's a really excellent reason, the majority of children do not need their own smartphone under the age of 11 to be accessing all that is held within that device. But what is it when we come to AI? What is it that our children will need? They'll need those critical thinking skills, They will definitely need language skills in order to give prompts to AI. We need digital resilience. We need problem solving and questioning skills to understand whether that AI content is biased or of good value or high quality. We need to make sure that we are nurturing empathy and respect. Digital literacy skills are going to be surely seen as a core subject. And unfortunately, while we wait for all the platforms to tidy up their act, we need to make sure that children have got some element of self-regulation. We don't want to responsibilize our children with their own online safety, but we do need to accept the fact that self-regulation is a part of healthy digital habits and therefore digital skills. So yesterday, this is hot off the press, yesterday, a new bit of research came out. This was from Sonia Livingstone, who is a very key player in the Five Rights Foundation, who looks at children's rights in a digital era, and they have campaigned so hard to make the internet safer for our children. So and released yesterday was this document, a child rights audit of Gen AI in EdTech. So it felt really right and important that I include this in this session today. So this is 5 takeaways for you when considering AI products in the classroom. So number 1, be mindful of children's data. Most AI tools rely on collecting data and certainly analysing it, and for young children that does raise extra safeguarding. And we're not talking about inappropriate platforms, we're talking about who fell foul of some of these key takeaways. So it's really important that you have a look at this document if you can. So, and always ask what data is being gathered, who controls it, and how it's being used. Separate the promise from the proof. We know that there's always a tendency with EdTech and computing to be under pressure to adopt the latest things, and there's a lot of noise around AI offering personalized learning, reducing teacher workload, but actually the evidence is still very limited. So approach with caution and have the confidence to put the brakes on when you are asked to adopt different technologies in the classroom. Keep pedagogy in the driving seat. So technology should serve you, not drive you. So what is it that you want to achieve from the technology, and is it relevant that AI could help you with that? Does it make it more engaging? Is it making something more inclusive? Is it serving you with what you need to deliver? So please have the confidence to just ask as many questions as you need to in order to feel comfortable with what you're being asked to use in the classroom, because online safety is not just about delivering it to your children, but it's about making sure that you as a teacher feel comfortable with what you are using. Using a child rights lens, so that's thinking about privacy, fairness, transparency, and that children should be able to, and parents, caregivers should be able to understand really clearly how a tool works and what its limitations are. And if it can't be explained clearly, then it may not be right for primary schools. One of my biggest bugbears before we created NataHub was that so much technology has been shoehorned into primary school settings that was never intended for young children. Microsoft Teams, for example, was designed for a corporate setting and has found its way into primary school environments, not necessarily with appropriate age-appropriate UX and UI, and has been shoehorned in. So it's really important that you are looking at technology. Has this been designed with our youngest children in mind? And if you don't feel that it has, then let's question using it. So definitely advocate for support and guidance, because you are carrying a big burden when it comes to choosing safe and effective AI tools. So it's really reasonable to expect that you've got the support and the CPD opportunities so that you can properly focus on the teaching rather than troubleshooting the technology. So hopefully those 5 takeaways are there to support you in the classroom. So going back to online safety, how is it that we learn to be safe? So this is thinking back to really building the safety of our children. If we think about all the other areas where there's potential risk in our children's lives, that's crossing a road, riding a bike, learning to swim, everything about those 3 scenarios is hand in hand, adult guided, adult trained, in order for us to give children autonomy in that space, so that they've had the training, they've had the education, they've had the help, they've had the encouragement to try in a safe space before going out there and being in that space by themselves, before they cross the road by themselves, before they're riding a bike with 2 wheels without wobbling off, and before they're able to go and jump in a swimming pool without parental help. It's really, really important that we understand what happens in order to prepare children. And when we think about that in an online scenario, it's about practicing safe online interactions. It's about nurturing healthy digital habits. How can we provoke regular impactful conversations? How can we understand that genre of digital communication? We know that children can misread digital communication, especially when they are young and still working it out face to face. And what can we do? We need to talk to our children. And of course, it would be very crass of me to mention that these are the foundations of NataHub, and this is how we have gone on to support 14,000 schools across the world with developing these safe online interactions in a safe space. But for those of you who want to understand why online safety is not just a subject, it's a mindset. So it's less about you having to be a technology expert, and it's more about helping children ask, does this feel right? So by building curiosity and self-awareness and fostering safe questioning, you are already teaching online safety. We know as well that connection is the first form of protection. So if they feel connected to you, their teacher, or to a trusted adult at home, they are more likely to speak up and talk to you about when something feels unsafe. So it's applying those DSL cultures to your understanding about online safety. When children feel connected, they're more resilient. Every teacher can model online safety, even without teaching it. So remember that you're also giving online safety education when you're talking about setting boundaries kindly, when you're talking openly about our feelings and giving our children a safe space to talk about feelings, even if they may be uncomfortable feelings. If you are genuinely celebrating mistakes as learning, children will be more open about telling you when they got it wrong. So encourage respectful disagreement within your class. And this is how, you know, you're often asked to embed online safety across the curriculum and across the timetable. These are the very soft skills that will build the resilience when children are online. And it's about making those links. It's about making those links with our children and being aware, and for you as a teacher, being confident that you are generating opportunities and inviting these soft skills into your everyday practice. Because digital resilience grows from critical thinking, so that children can think, oh, who made this and why did they make it? So that they can recognize manipulation. If they've got the language of emotional literacy, they will be more ready to cope with peer pressure. So spending more time naming feelings when something online unsettles them get children talking, not just happy, sad, but really that full range of different feelings are part of building digital resilience. So it's not always in your computing lessons that you can be confident that you're teaching online safety, seeing it as this cross-curricular conversation that's happening. Because if we teach connection and we teach curiosity and we're teaching compassion, then essentially we are teaching many of the components of online safety. Don't worry so much about being tech savvy and focus more on creating safe classroom cultures. If you know that your children could come in and tell you anything, and that you're building a safe, secure attachment with them, then you're empowering them to trust their instincts and ask for help. And relationship-rich schools are the safest places for children to explore and discuss their digital world. It doesn't mean that you have to know every platform that they're on, every privacy setting that's required for that platform, every game that they're playing. If you are talking and raising the profile of relationship-rich environments in your classroom, then you are going so far in supporting your children online. And really, if you're already doing that, then really it's just about making that link with whatever you're talking about and saying, online, this looks like this. What would you do if this conversation had happened online? If you're sorting out a problem in the playground, take it as an opportunity to talk about how different that would have been if it had happened online. It's about making those links. So what is it that you need from your parent community? We know that parents are an integral part of online safety provision, and often they feel overwhelmed. It's that, and that's that comes with no judgment. I'm a parent. This is my world. It has been for the last 14 years, and it's still overwhelming. It's fast-paced. It can feel scary and unwieldy for parents, just as it can do for teachers as well when they're sorting out all of the stuff that comes from home around online. And you will hear parents say, I don't know what they're doing. They know more than I do. I can't stay ahead of what they're doing online. It's overwhelming, it's confusing, and they just hope that they'll be okay. Oh, well, they're all at it, so that they should be okay. And let's remember that some children are okay. They have the emotional quotient, they have the savvy to know that they are when they're perhaps in a vulnerable situation, they know when to ignore something, they know when to extract themselves from a gaming situation. There are some children who know that. They are your gems for having these conversations in school, because you need them to teach other children through those impactful conversations so that they are sharing that wealth of knowledge. Now, but we can't rest on our laurels, and we need our parents' support in order that your job is made easier, so that you have less of the risky stuff coming into school, but also because we know the power of that triangle for schools: the parent, the teacher, and the pupil. When everybody's speaking the same language, we know that that's when you see massive impact. So what we do when we have our parent webinars, when we talk to our parents, we keep it really simple, because we focus on behavioural tactics that can do so much good in protecting our children online. And they're not asking parents to become tech experts. We're asking them to do these 5 things that we know will automatically reduce online vulnerability significantly for their child. So what are they? First of all, and we're happy to tell your parents this as well. So if you need to invite your parent community to our webinars, please do so. First of all, they need to remove automatic access to the internet for their primary age children. If we have this permission-based access, is it okay if I go online? Can I use the internet? What we are doing is, similarly to having a massive bag of sweets in the cupboard, it's creating that understanding that unfiltered open access to sweets is probably not a great idea. So it's the same with the internet and being online. We need to create this, what we call healthy fear, the need for caution around a space that can be likened to going to a big city. When you go to a big city, or you live in a big city, there are spaces that have been designed specifically for children. And there are other spaces that may feel a bit scary or that are unsafe for children. So we need to generate this same understanding of the need for caution. And by having a permission-based access, we'll go a long way, because then it triggers opportunities to ask, what do you need to go on the internet for? What are you going to be doing? Who are you going to be talking to? Which game are you going to be playing? And when you combine that with staying physically close to your children when they are online at all possible times, then you are further still reducing the possibility of a child seeing content without you knowing, or being groomed or coerced into behaving in an inappropriate way, or if they need your emotional support, they need to check something with you, they're far more likely to do that if you are in the room with them. So we say to parents, stay physically close. And we know that's not always possible. If it's not always possible and their children are in another room, the door should be open. Because what this does is, it means that children grow up with the realization that their parents still need to parent them when they are online. They're not just their face-to-face parent, they are their digital parent as well. And this leads us to the very, very important point of keeping devices out of bedrooms and private spaces. If you ask your year 5 and 6 children how many of them have a device in their room overnight, you may be quite surprised or not to know that an awful lot of children have a device in their room overnight, whether that's a mobile one or not. We need to continue to spread that word that devices do not belong in bedrooms and private spaces, and of course that also means bathrooms. If children are not in bedrooms and private spaces, wardrobes even, I know it happens, they are less likely to go back to that terrifying statistic around self-generated content. They are less likely to be creating that sexualized content if they're not in a private space. We say to parents, you need to start conversations now, and you need to get comfortable with having uncomfortable conversations, because every aspect of keeping children safe, whether it's online use, whether it's risky behaviors, whether it's drugs or alcohol, whether it's relationships and health education, they're not all comfortable, but it's important that we don't avoid them, especially when the average age that we know about, the average age that boys now see porn for the first time is about 10 years old. So it's really important that we are starting to have conversations, and you don't need to dive in straight away, but we need to be connected. So again, it's going back to the importance of connection with our children, because if we don't have conversations around what they enjoy about being online, what they're doing online, how do they feel when they play that game? Is it exciting or is it a bit scary? All of these things are just like we have early learning skills, early literacy, early numeracy skill, all that good stuff that happens at the bottom end of primary. We need to do that the same with talking about our feelings and our emotions linked to being online. Because if we leave it till children are this age and you're suddenly asking about the kinds of messages that they might be sending to a new partner, it will trigger a very different response if these questions haven't been asked before. So it's really, really important that we get our parents talking to their children. And I'm on a mission to open up that spending time with our children every day, it doesn't have to be for long, but we have to speak to our children. And in a distracted world, that can still be a big ask. So getting involved with your child's online world means it's how you will learn about your child's digital temperament. How likely are they to fly off the handle, or swear at a friend, or have a go when somebody's not playing the game as they thought they should do? It's really important that we are setting boundaries and expectations around our children's online behavior. And when we do this hand in hand, it demonstrates that there's a difference between sharing an online experience and giving a child their own TikTok account. We know there's nothing funnier than children doing the, using filters with granny or uncles and aunties for the first time, and how funny they find that. And of course, for a primary school child, doing a TikTok dance with an older cousin can be a really fun, online experience. That is very different to children having their own TikTok account. And that brings me nicely onto the fourth thing that we want parents to do, is what to consider if they care about their child's well-being, what they should consider before children use social media. It's not just a question of, oh, everybody's doing it, so I'm just going to let you. If you want to make an informed decision, these are the things that we want parents to consider. Do children understand the boundaries of when they chat to people they don't know? What does a red flag look like? Is somebody asking you to connect with them on a regular basis? Are they being too nice? Are they giving you things in a game when you wouldn't expect them to, because you don't actually know them? We need to recognize the signs of grooming and coercion. So also might need to consider that, do children know that most faces and bodies have been altered by technology, and that the aspirational imagery that we see on social media is absolutely not achievable without this technology? Do children know that? Has it been pointed out to them, not just once, but every week, and as a reminder that they are not to aspire to be looking like the kinds of images that they're seeing online? Do our children know to never share images and videos without a trusted parental permission and advice and guidance? Because this is what leads to vulnerability. Are we discussing with our children what to do when they see inappropriate content? Not if they see it, but when they see it, because they will see it. And are you not going to freak out as a parent when they do tell you that they've just seen adult content? So these are things that we need our parents to consider. Are they happy to talk about Andrew Tate around a table, about why their child might be interested in following and understanding some of that messaging? Are they ready to talk about whether that aligns with their family, moral compass, if you like? Is it ethically aligned with their family values? Also, they should consider that in order to protect our children, that they need to know that some people have an unnatural interest in children, and that they might be trying to make friends with them in order to access them. If the answer is you're not ready to have these conversations, then definitely your child should not be on social media. The fifth thing that we say to parents, and is the most obvious one and the least adopted: privacy settings and parental controls. 30% of parents use them, and they make a difference. This is what prolongs our children's childhood. This is what prevents them from seeing so much of the content that was never intended, or that was intended but you don't want them to see it, the content online. So it's really important that we remind parents around that, the issue of privacy settings. And when we take a hand-in-hand approach with our children, whether it's as parents or whether it's as educators, when we are there, when we're creating a safe forum for our children to talk about what they are doing online, to invite them to share, even if it's not of interest to you as a teacher or as a parent, but when we take an interest in our children's online world. It's through that hand-in-hand experience and by forming that connection with our children that we create safe exposure. And safe exposure means that they're not doing it on their own. They know that you are available as a trusted adult in their world. We know that parents can be the perfect trusted adult, but they're not always in a position to be. So it's really important that we view online safety as part of our safeguarding provision, and taking the time to form those connections and the meet and greet that you do with a child as they walk into your classroom every single day might be the couple of sentences that make a difference, that tell them that important message that, do you know what? I could tell Miss that I saw that scary video last night, by forming that connection. And so that brings us to the end of this session. I hope that what you can take away is the reassurance that you're already doing so much of the online safety that's needed for our schools, and that if you need any more support and help, we are here for you. I'm sorry that there isn't just one quick toggle on anything that you can just slide across to make it happen. If any of you would like to have a free trial of NatHub and see what our lessons can do in terms of opening up those conversations, please do get in touch. We will be absolutely happy to support you with that. But thank you again for being with us on this mission to keep our children as happy as possible for as long as possible, for preserving childhood and for creating a safe space for our children to communicate all of the things that they're doing online.